Hello and welcome to this week's episode of your Power Packed Podlets. My name is Rachel and I'm your host for these mini magical journeys together. This week's episode has been especially created for those of you, maybe like me, you're like this free spirit, this free soul, you've always questioned the status quo and you've always desired to make income on your own terms, create life on your own terms. You've seen what a lot of like the masses are doing out there and it doesn't resonate for you. And so you've always pushed against the mainstream and found your own way in life. And you've potentially been making your own income for a period of time, for quite a bit, or you're wanting to do so. This conversation is a piece that I resisted for a really long time. And then when I actually contemplated what I'm bringing to the table to you today, I realized I had so many unconscious stories around what it was to be a business owner. And this was a big part that was stopping me from getting to another level of financial freedom. But not only this, it was stopping me from being able to rest and then not having financial stress after the rest. And the reason I wanted to bring this topic to you today is, I mean, if you don't know my voice, you might not know, might not be able to hear this. If you do, you might be able to hear I've got a bit of a cold. And previously, not that long ago, before I started really stepping into, like expanding into being a business owner and what that means, thinking like a business owner, moving like a business owner, seeing myself as the founder of a company. Until I started to do that, there was, when I got a cold, and this wasn't long ago, when I got a cold, my income that month would decrease by 30%, 40%, dependent on how much time I chose to take off. The type of things that I was doing meant that quite a lot of my job was physical. So for my body, I had to rest, but also it was quite intimate contact with clients. And so I didn't want to breathe my germs on them. I didn't want to expose them to the cold I had. And so I would take time off until I had fully recovered. And it was so stressful. Sometimes I would look to what are all of the things I can do, which would often be group sessions where I wouldn't be so close to people. And those were the ones that required so much energy of me that my cold would actually last longer. And then the stress would then be the next months. There would be this accumulation because not having the money to pay the things, it would then be an accumulation that would last some time before I'd feel I'd fully recovered, not just from the cold, also from the stress, also from the reduction in income. And something I couldn't see at that time was I wasn't thinking like a business owner. I saw myself as self-employed. I saw myself as running a small project. And this was all under conscious awareness. And it wasn't until I started to acknowledge that resistance, because sometimes on your path, it's not until you encounter an obstacle big enough that stops you in your tracks and makes you look at how you are keeping yourself small, that you actually choose to go within and look at those things. And this was certainly the case for me. It wasn't until certain things stopped me in my tracks, it made me realize, you know what, I've got so much experience. I've been doing this so long, tens of thousands of hours of experience doing what I did, and I was still thinking like somebody who is self-employed. And of course, that meant I was earning like somebody who is self-employed. Even though I was earning above the average of what all of my peers in the same arena were earning, it still wasn't that much more. It still wasn't an amount that allowed me to go on holiday and relax, to think, oh, I'm covered for retirement. And so these sorts of things started to weigh on my mind. I started to realize, you know, in my 40s, I want to be able to go on holiday and relax. I want to know I'm setting myself up to be able to retire at some point in the future. And it wasn't until then I realized how small I'd been thinking. I'd been rejecting the very idea that was going to take me to the next level. I had these unconscious stories around the idea of what a business owner is, imagining this man in a suit with a tie and cufflinks with his employees. I had this image of what it meant to run a company, and I did not want to become that myself. I had no interest. It had been the very system I'd rejected, that status quo, the masses that I'd rejected and walked away from. So I was like, unconsciously, I'm not going to move towards that. That's not freedom. It felt like a prison in my unconscious. It felt like a level of responsibility that I didn't want to take on because I had these ideas around responsibility. I never even contemplated. As creative minds, we get to choose what we want to be. That you can be a thriving founder of a company, authentically you, walking around barefoot in your office with your nose pierced, your eyebrows pierced, your tattoos, whatever, your shaved head, whatever it may be, blue tips in your hair. You get to be what you want to be because as a business owner and the founder of a company, you set the tone. You're in the driving seat. You get to decide. And the reason I wanted to bring this conversation to the table, whether you're starting out, considering it, or already on the path, the next level you desire doesn't first come from action. It comes from the acknowledgement of the unconscious programming that is keeping you where you are. Let me say that again in different words. If you're struggling to get different results, it's not first to do with the actions you're taking. It's to do with the things that you have not yet contemplated because nobody's told you to contemplate them. You've not been in the conversations where you've taken a pause and thought, I hadn't considered looking at that. It's because you're not in the spaces, in the conversations, in the rooms that get you to think beyond where your current circumstance. There is so much we do not yet know. There are so many conversations we've not yet had, so many unconscious things within ourselves we've not yet contemplated because we've not been in the spaces that hold that mirror up to self and get us to look there. So right now, the results you're currently seeing and currently creating are to do with everything that you've thought and believed and taken action on in the past. So the results you get in the future are exactly the same. The things you're contemplating, the things you're assuming and believing, and therefore the actions you're taking from that place, that's what's creating your future results. And if what you want in the future is different from what you're experiencing in the now, you have to contemplate different things. You have to think in different ways. You have to choose different thoughts, and from that place, take different actions. You cannot continue doing all of the same that you're doing now and expect a different outcome in the future. It's not how it works. And I can guarantee there are assumptions and belief systems and identity pieces that are under your conscious awareness that are dictating the results you currently have. They're determining what you think to do to get your future results. And the only way you can shift this, the only way you can become consciously aware of these things is by being in the spaces that introduce you to the conversations that are required for you to have, that introduce you to the ideas and the concepts of what success is actually built upon. Because I can guarantee the next level of success that you've never experienced isn't built upon the foundations you're currently thinking. You're currently assuming. I can almost guarantee that. If you knew what they were built upon, you'd already have them. Let me say that again. The success you want, if you really, 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 really knew what that was built upon, you would already have it. And so you don't know what it takes yet. You don't know what is required of you yet. The identity shifts, the shift in feeling, the shift in focus, in contemplation, in ideas, and then actions from that place. It's so important to be in the rooms that inspire you and lead you to those places of creativity within, where you're guided to consider, what does it mean to run a thriving, profitable company? What does that mean? What does it mean to be a thriving, successful business owner with financial freedom? Is a thriving business owner with financial freedom moving in the way you're currently moving, investing in the way you're currently investing, thinking in the way you're currently thinking? Because one of the things that was a real breakthrough for me and has really changed the game, relaxed my nervous system, reduced stress and anxiety and overwhelm, is I no longer think short term. Because business owners, we don't think short term. It's not how you build a long-term successful business. And I know some of you are even rejecting the idea of being a business owner, and that is massively getting in your way. You want freedom, and yet you're rejecting the very way of thinking that's going to get you there. Because you have stories around what being a business owner is. And I know that because I've been there. Learning to be you and understand yourself as thriving, successful. Some of the ways you see yourself have to shift. How you think about creating money has to shift. And one of these is being able to, in your business, invest your focus, your time, and your money based on the future you are moving towards. I'm going to leave you with this one thought because this is a really, really powerful one. Business owners who are thriving, what we think about is where we place our focus, attention, what actions we take in the now, what things we invest in the now, based on where we are going, not where we currently find ourselves. Because if you're constantly investing your focus, time, energy, and money based on where you're currently at, all you're going to do is create more of the same. You can't create something different if what you're focusing on is what you have or don't have. You have to see beyond the target. You have to see beyond your current situation to create a different future. So what can you do to get into conversations that stretch you to see beyond where you're currently at? How can you get into conversations that highlight things that you have not thought to contemplate yet? And then the work is actual contemplation, the acknowledgement of the resistance within you, and seeing that resistance usually is the thing that is stopping you from moving forwards. This is where radical responsibility plays a role. Think about this week. If you're listening to this on a Monday or the rest of the week, what can you do to stretch your mind? What can you do to see what you've not yet seen? And then what are you going to do with that information? If these sorts of conversations, they land for you, they make sense, they resonate, then the school is a beautiful place. You will hear at the end of the majority of podlets, I'll talk about the school, because for those of you who you're contemplating it, each time you'll hear some different information or said in a different way. And so it helps you to get a greater and greater picture of what the school is about and the value you will get from it and the change you will experience. But it's also for those of you who haven't even thought to contemplate a space like the school. Because this was also me. Before somebody introduced me to this sort of space and what it could do for me, even once I'd been introduced to it, it took me a little while to realize the difference it was going to make in my life. And so sometimes just hearing somebody talk about a space like this and opening your mind up to it, this will already create a shift for you. because you begin to understand what people who are thriving and growing really fast, what we're doing. Because you probably know that a lot of people who are really high up in business, they have their coaches and mentors. Even though they're already doing really well, they have people who coach them, they have people who mentor them, they have people with whom they can have the conversations, not just about how to do well, it's also how to navigate the hard things. To have those logical, grounded, safe conversations around things that can feel really unsafe to hold, so that the nervous system, that individual, isn't holding everything alone. It's a huge part of why they're successful. And now the world, those of us who are heart-led, empath, spiritual, we're now getting on board with this. We're realizing, oh, so if we want that level of success, this is the sort of support that's going to make the difference for us as well. We don't have to wait for that success to invest in it. Invest in it now to get there. And so many men and women in the world of spirituality who are heart-led and empathic are growing exponentially. You're probably seeing this because of the investments we're making in the support we're receiving, the education we're receiving, the mentorship. This is a big one, the mentorship we're receiving. Because we're being introduced to things we hadn't thought to think yet. We're being introduced to ideas we hadn't thought to contemplate upon. And not only this, we're not holding everything alone anymore. Yes, you are strong. Yes, you are capable. Doesn't mean you have to hold it all alone. And this was a big breakthrough for me, was choosing not to hold everything alone anymore, allowing myself to be held as I hold others. So my nervous system just, knowing that the support is there, even when I'm not tapping into it, makes a huge difference. And so I've created the school in accordance with what I know serves others, because I have that lived experience. Because in business, it's not about creating something and then trying to sell it. It's looking at what is it people need, creating that product and service, and then it naturally sells itself because it fills a need for the people who want to purchase it. And that's exactly what the school is. For those of you who you haven't studied business before and you don't know how business works, education is so vitally important. Support and guidance as you go to that place is so important. And so in the school, and this is something I saw, was having to take a course for copy, a course for marketing, a course for sales funnels, having everything in one place, a one-stop shop for everything you need. But you can't focus on business alone. There has to be the inner development, the inner expansion, the identity upgrades. And so I wanted to bring that all together as well. One place for the community, the conversations, the personal growth, the business growth. And then, of course, there's a certification. I won't talk about that today. The only thing I will share is the certification. You don't have to be an advanced, experienced facilitator or practitioner. It's great to know that the majority of people on the certification are. So you understand the level of conversation that we're having. It's not a beginner's conversation. It's advanced, it's in depth, it goes wide, it goes deep. So I know that those of you listening at some point, you will join the school, whenever that may be. It's up to you to lead yourself towards that decision and through that decision. And if during that process you wish to converse with me about it, to determine which of the levels is for you, then do reach out. I look forward to connecting with you in next week's Power Packed podcast.